Well, if the employees aren't engaged, they're not going to deliver on the customer experience. And if the employees don't deliver on the customer experience, or let me rephrase that, the employees are going to optimize the customer experience. And if they don't do that, then the company is not going to be able to accomplish the kinds of things it could. And it's really that simple, because it takes a number of different elements. And when we look at it, we look at the total customer experience. And there's a whole bunch of different things there. There's your ability to deliver your product on time. There's your ability to invoice correctly. There's the relationships they have with the sales and marketing people. There's customer service when something doesn't go the way it should. There's product quality. There's so many different elements that can affect an organization's relationship. Yeah. Now, without understanding the balance in that area and making sure that, and so many of those are human, and so many of the differentiators are human. I mean, product quality now is unbelievable. I mean, very few smartphones are problematic, right? You get them, they work. And that's a good thing. But where the businesses break down is in the human element in supporting all of that. And that's where the CMO should have great interest in how engaged the employees are. But the problem is that a lot of times it's, employee engagement, well, that's in HR.
That's HR.
Go talk to HR. And unfortunately, there are really progressive HR divisions and there are really non-progressive HR groups, right? Yeah. And the organizations quite often don't look at it as a strength of the business. They look at it as a cost center, something that has to be managed, rather than how do we engage these employees? How do we get them excited? Have to get them to collaborate, share their thoughts and ideas on how to make the organization better and deliver on that optimal promise to the customers. That's why they have to be brought together in one way or the other. Well, one of the big ones is that they will, there's a few of them. One is that they rely on data that's old. And data that's old is literally data that's a week old now. It used to be different, but that's how it is today. I mean, things change so fast. Organizations could be really hurt literally in a week of having bad experiences for their clients. So it's being able to measure that on an ongoing basis, and being able to bring the two components together, the two main components. And really, it's the third, right? We talk triads. Leadership has to be aligned with that, because if leadership is there, and CMO generally falls into that category, so leadership has to create that environment that allows the employees and the customers to interact in a way that is really magical. And they can do that. But unfortunately, the problem is a lot of times you don't have the data to do that. So by having good data, it's non-debatable. You can take away agendas, and you can get the employees and leadership and customers and suppliers and everyone working together, creating that optimal experience, because it's clear as to what it is. Well, there's a couple of key things that we use as indicators. One is, are you bringing on new customers at the rate you should be? And that could be both A, B, C, and D clients as well. So if you have a smaller offering or a bigger offering through sales reps and things, are you able to bring on new business at the rate you should be? And are you ahead or behind what your average competitor would be doing in that particular space? The other is your retention. Are you retaining customers, and are you getting the optimal amount of business from them? Because those two are the key elements of measurement in any kind of sales and marketing operation. But if they're not quite where they are, then your culture is not necessarily connected enough to help support the integration of the two. And by getting the employees aligned with the customers in this way with the metrics and helping understand how they value things. Quick example is that a lot of, we find very few employees who want to do a bad job with the customers. Very few. But you hear about bad service all over the place. Why is that? Well, usually what it is that the employees value things differently than the customers do. So by bringing those two pieces together and helping, but if leadership comes in and says to the employees, no, this is what's important, you guys do it differently, employees go, yeah, right, when's the last time you talked to a customer? And we all know where that conversation goes. So by saying, here's what we thought, here's what our customers thought, how do we work together to create that great customer experience? The employees now can focus their efforts on how the customers value things. And it's amazing what happens when that comes out of it. Okay, well, it was interesting because where it all started was I was sitting in a boardroom one day, and the group of executives were talking, and this was a high-performance company. They did a great job. They were on time, they had good product, they had good support services, everything else. and the business was declining. Profits were going down, margins were going down. Wow, we're great at everything. Why is this? And they did a customer satisfaction study and came back. They were heads and tails above everyone else. And I was watching this whole conversation. I was new to it, so a lot of times you can see things. And I said, well, how important is this stuff to the customers? And we kind of looked around at each other and never really asked the question. So I went out that and literally wrote a little algorithm that compared how people value things to performance. And look, the gap between the two is what's important. It's not one or the other. It's the gap. So we went out and we asked the customers. We found out that they were doing all these things that the customers valued lowly. So, if you look at 100 as being where you want to be, which is aligned, 80 is bad service, 120 is you're doing more than they want, right? Simple stuff. So what happened was we found all these things were at 125, 130. So they were doing things that the customers didn't value. So the customers aren't going to pay for it, right? So this was a big aha. So of course, knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's stop doing that. Oh, so we can just be like everyone else? Maybe let's go and talk to some people. So we talked to a number of companies at that time. Apple was one of the big customers. And so we said, how important is this stuff to you? And they said, oh, it's really important, and this is why. Would you put your name to it? Absolutely. So we came up with a simple marketing program called What's It Worth to You? And we actually had the influential customers say why those things were important. It worked beautifully because the business turned around literally in weeks. Now, what happened with that? The interesting part of that was what we did was we increased the value of the item. They were already doing a great job. So we increased the value through education. And then people started to come back and spend the money because they understood what they were paying the money for. Simple concept. But we were able to do that in a complex relationship because in that particular case, there was, I can't remember exactly what the number was, but about 61 different potential touch points because there was a lot of moving parts. So being able to measure that relationship and understand exactly where it was and then make sure the elements were aligned with what they wanted worked well. Then we took those algorithms and we applied it to employee engagement. We have a supplier one because most companies beat up their suppliers. They don't actually work it. So how good of a customer are you? Because there's a lot of efficiencies and knowledge you can get and support you can get from that. And most importantly, we looked at how they all interrelated. And there's a longer story about all of that, but that's basically how it happened. So it is a holistic approach to organizational marketing health with the chief goal of optimizing that customer experience through very, very efficient delivery systems. That leads to much better performance.